Hey guys, today I'm going to talk about how I made this custom Mirage platform gimmick, which I used in my latest custom Super Mario Bros. Wonder level. The way these platforms work in the level is that touching the fake purple ones without collision reveals the location of the real blue ones which do have collision. The majority of this functionality, including the sound effect, is controlled by a group of in-game actors that are triggered by an area switch object, which is all pretty run-of-the-mill stuff. The only custom actor attributes are the fading in and out animations, the collision, and of course the models. So those are what I'll be focusing on for the majority of this video. Now, usually in these custom actor creation videos, the entire thing is structured around a repeating process of encountering big problems and solving those using unorthodox techniques. But in the case of the creation of these platforms, although I definitely encountered problems, the solution in every case wasn't that crazy or interesting for me to explain. It often just came down to trial and error. So although I'll mention the problems along the way, I'll spare you most of the details as far as the technical solutions go in this case. Anyways, the possibility of a mechanic like this was first brought to my attention by Thea, also known as Frozen Muncher, through this custom new Super Mario Bros. Wii-style Koopa Shell cave object. This was made after she discovered that these foreground walls that fade out on the world map are actually individual objects that simply receive a basic signal to disappear like this. And since Super Mario Bros. Wonder allows its world map objects to be placed in normal levels, because the world maps themselves are fundamentally levels as well, this means the same effect can also easily be recreated in a level by sending a signal to one of these objects when the player triggers an area switch. Now, the ability to fade certain parts of the level in and out at any point could be used for all sorts of stuff, and I don't doubt that I'll find more uses for it in the future, but the first thing I came up with when I saw this was using it to recreate the mirage effect. You're almost certainly familiar with this real-life phenomenon, even if you don't know the name for it. It's the reason distant roads often look reflective when it's particularly hot outside. This effect supposedly used to trick people into thinking they were seeing crazy stuff, like flying castles above the sea or oceans in the desert, which is why the concept is associated with fantastical illusions to this day. In fact, the original game alludes to this sort of thing as well with its hidden world map dioramas in World 4. And this same idea is what I was hoping to evoke by modifying these appearing and disappearing world map objects. As you may have noticed already, these use the same unique sparkly fade animation that I also ended up using for the Mirage platforms, which obviously isn't a coincidence. This technique is called dithering, and is used in many games to achieve a see-through effect without actually needing to render translucency, because that's a relatively resource-intensive thing for games to do. If I didn't care about this fading animation, I could have made this entire gimmick without needing to mess with too much custom actor stuff at all. I could have just spawned platforms in and out of existence instead of making them fade in and out. But that would obviously lessen the impact of the setups, so I had to try to turn one of these strange world map actors into something I could actually use in a level. Duplicating a world map object and making it load a different model requires the same process as any other actor, but just because this thing now looked like a platform didn't mean it actually functioned like it. Not only did this actor not have collision, but it also rendered in front of all of the other actors because the game doesn't know how to deal with the Z coordinate of a 3D world map object that's been placed in a 2D level space. Super Mario Bros. Wonder has different actor categories, and in order to fix this, I had to convert everything about this one from a world map actor into a map object, which is the category all types of platforms fall into. However, when I did that, I ran into another pretty devastating issue, which is that converting this object into a completely different type of actor removed its functionality, meaning the fading stuff stopped working. It turns out that some part of the code of this feature seems to rely on the actor it's applied to being a world map object. So this is where the trial and error I mentioned at the start of this video came in, because I had to determine which parts of the actor could and couldn't fall into which category to make the platform both render as a 2D level asset whilst also retaining its functionality. Thankfully, I managed to get that to work, though that didn't mean the actor configuration editing was done quite yet, because I still needed to add collision. This required me to go into the data of the platform I was trying to recreate and copy everything related to collision into the custom actor, which is a pretty simple but also extremely tedious process. But after a bit of work, yeah, there we go, the Mirage platform was now functionally complete. But I haven't really talked about its visuals yet. I decided to make the main Mirage platforms purple and blue recolors of one of the original game's platforms because I wanted to have a non-Mirage equivalent of the gimmick I could work with throughout the level, and the purple and blue color combo sets it apart from other color-coded gimmicks like the red and blue on-off blocks, while still evoking the same idea. Apart from the recolors, the only significant change I made to this asset was changing these generic blocks on the original platform into question mark blocks, which both fits the confusing nature of the mechanic and also matches other designs seen throughout the original game's desert world. In order to hint at the purple platform's fakeness, I flipped its question mark block upside down, which also fits with the fact that real-life mirages are mirror images. As usual, I had to make custom normal map and mix 0 textures, which tell the game how to handle the lighting of the different parts of the material. But when I imported all of these onto a model and looked at it in-game, something was wrong. Although the platform itself looked right, the fading animation had sort of changed. The sparkle pattern was completely gone. It was at this point that I realized that this aspect of these objects isn't handled with code or pre-programmed animations, but with a special kind of material that uses a texture to determine how the mesh should disappear. The game uses this texture as a sort of gradient, making the lightest pixels disappear first and gradually moving to the darker pixels, which is what causes this incremental pattern effect. Actually, my video editing software can use textures for fading animations in the exact same way, so there we go. Anyways, the problem with this material trick is that, as far as I know, it can't be added onto another existing material, such as the one I was using for my platforms. And although replacing my platform's materials with this gradient one made the sparkle effect show up again, it also meant my platforms were now using a material that was made for these world map assets. So here's another instance where I encountered a problem which I solved by brute forcing my way through with a bunch of trial and error. In this case by manually editing the world map material parameters to make it look more like that of the original platform. Wonder's materials are notoriously finicky because one wrong move makes them render the entire model red, like this. But after a lot of work, I managed to make the platforms look fairly decent, I think. So that's how the platforms were made, but those alone weren't gonna cut it. I wanted a bit more flexibility as far as the level's design went, which is why I made these 1x1 semi-solids and blocks by duplicating the normal platforms and changing their model and collision. The visuals of the blocks were based on the original game's metallic blocks, whereas the 1-wide platforms were custom made and based on the wider platforms. In terms of the in-game setups for the Mirage platforms, one addition that really tied the whole gimmick together was this sound effect. It's what the original game uses when this door appears using a call SE tag object, so I trigger one of those every time the player enters the area switch that sets off the Mirage gimmick. During the level's Wonder effect, instead of the platforms being triggered by area switches, they appear and disappear continuously every couple of seconds. Although the game has a pretty robust system of logic-based actors like OR tags, AND tags, and delay tags, there is no real clock function to repeatedly trigger the same signal. So I had to make one myself by making one delay tag trigger a second delay tag, which then triggers a NOR tag, which disables the first delay delay tag, eventually disabling the second delay tag, and then the NOR tag, meaning the first tag gets activated again, and thus everything's gone full circle. It's like the Super Mario Bros. Wonder version of a Minecraft repeater clock. And with that setup worked out, that's all there is to talk about as far as the Mirage platforms go. Like I mentioned earlier, I think this signal activated fading in and out effect probably has way more uses than this one application. So if you have any ideas for how I should use this in the future, please let me know by leaving a comment. While you're down there, maybe also consider leaving a like or subscribing. I also have a public Discord server linked in the description, and if you'd like to get early access to my videos, maybe consider signing up for a YouTube channel membership. Thank you so much for watching, and bye bye!